Hey guys, this is Doctor McFarland, and it is Tuesday, and that means we're going to Tac-O-Bout gear for Taco Tuesday. And for the second week in a row, I did not have Mexican food. I actually had chicken nuggets, mac and cheese, and some whipped up mashed potatoes. That was actually pretty good. So, when you're feeding for the kids and the wife is out of the house, you got to improvise. So maybe next week I'll have some kind of tacos or rice or beans or something, but not for this week. So come on in. Let me know how everything sounds. And I have a Headrush MX5 here in front of me. And last night during my Headrush live stream, there's a guy named Jordan something. And he was having some issues with using a Headrush into basically a 4-cable method of his, I think it's a PV or like an EVH 3 or 5153 or some kind of high gain amp. So I don't have a high gain amp, but I do have a Boss Katana right over here that is, I'm using the record out into the Focusrite. So that's what you're hearing. Okay, so that's what that sounds like. And then let's go and make sure we got adequate volumes here. Too bad. I'm going to bring that up a little bit. But you let me know how all that sounds to you. And so to start the stream, I want you to say hello to a guy named Les Paul. This is a 2012 Les Paul Traditional, and this means there's no push-pull pots on the tone, on the tone knobs. There's not a lot of weight relief on this model. Other models, which are a little bit lighter, maybe in the 7 to 8 pound range, before they put the maple top on, they'll actually do like they call it Swiss cheese, because they have holes like all in the body, and that takes a lot of the weight out, which a lot of guys prefer. I did not go to a shop and sit down like Rhett Scholl and what's his face? I can't remember. Recently, Rhett Scholl bought a Les Paul with Tim Pierce. There it is, Tim Pierce. They went shopping for Les Pauls, and I did not have that advantage. So I was basically looking around Reverb and saw this guitar with this top. That top right there. And I was like, yep. I need a Les Paul in my life, and there's about to be a huge purge of other guitars that are not this. So, very, very exciting stuff. I went to Jonathan Fletcher's Music here in Smyrna, Tennessee after work and got a nice guitar cloth and some polish, because the back of the neck was just a little... It was a little sticky. I guess the guy before me didn't, really wipe it down before he shipped it off, which is fine. But I got it out of the case and I tuned it right up, and pretty much been playing it all day. So it sounds really good. So this would be the centerpiece for the tones going into a Headrush MX5. Then going into the Boss Katana via 4-cable method. Now, I have plenty of videos about the 4-cable method. But just if you're brand new, I'm trying to get a good position here. If you're brand new to amplifiers, effects, what is this whole 4-cable method nonsense you're talking about? Let me explain real fast. So 4-cable method means you have 4 cables, and it's a way to make a loop for the preamp section and then a loop for the post effects or the power amp section of your amplifier. So therefore, you're able to send like your drive effects, your phase flange, wah-wah pedal, stuff like that going into the front end of your amplifier, because that's usually where your pre-effects, your preamp effects live. And then effects like tremolo, chorus, delays, reverbs, I'm sure other stuff. I mean, whatever you want, really. That can go into the effects loop of the amp, which is essentially just past the power amp section of the amplifier. So that keeps things nice and separate, and it makes for the delays and reverbs to sound nice and clean and not get all muddy and distorted. Because when you start going into the a distorted amplifier, delays and reverbs get greatly magnified and in volume, and they also sound a lot dirtier because that dirt channel of the amp is after your effects, and therefore you're having a distorted reverb or a distorted delay. And some players like that, and some players prefer the clean route. So what we have here in front of us, let's go ahead and talk about this setup here. Pretty much you can do this with any pedal board, with any modeler, it doesn't matter. But for modelers, there's a special block you have to include in the signal path in order to tell the unit that you are actually using the effects loop on the unit itself. So there is a effects block right here, and effects loop block, and if I bypass it, this is what it sounds like. Okay, that is essentially me taking my guitar and I'm going straight into the effects return of the amplifier, because basically the signal path is broken and the send going to the front end of the amp is now bypassed, and also the send coming from the amp to the unit is bypassed. So therefore the output right here is going straight to the effects return. So if I engage the effects loop now, this is what we get. Alright. So that's all well and good. I have a reverb block after the effects loop. So this is what this sounds like. We can also put this before the effects loop block, and this is essentially sending it to the front end of the amplifier. Let me go ahead and turn on like an overdrive channel. Crazy. But if I put the reverb back after the effects loop but leave the gain channel on the amp, we get this. So it's a little cleaner sounding. I will take down the mix of that so it's not so crazy. Something like that. And now let's say I want to insert a tube screamer into the signal chain here. So we're going to go to distortion and green JRC. And it always shows up yellow for some reason, which is annoying. I'm going to save this as the default. Okay, so here's the tube screamer going to the front end of your amp. right, now if I put the tube screamer after the effects loop block, it's essentially going to the power amp section now and not to the front. It's not going to sound all that great. It actually doesn't sound too bad, but it's not as powerful if you had it before and going to the preamp section. Alright, so let's see what else we can do here. Let's put in some modulation. And let's add in a flanger. And let's do a simple flange. Okay, let's put it after the amplifier or in the power amp section. I'm going to turn up my headphones so I can feel like I'm hearing something. Now, to me, phase and flange tends to stick out in the mix a little bit too much versus having it before the amplifier and, you know, putting it in front of any kind of dirt you have. All right, I like that one. Let's put in some rotary effect. This is always kind of fun. Where is my rotary? Rotary. Right there. And I don't really have a preference between any of this. Let's just pick a preset and go with it. Actually, that's a little too crazy. Let's do a foam drum or a, yeah. Okay, let's put it after the effects loop. So you can hear that most modulation effects, just to me, they sound too weird when they're in the effects loop and not before the preamp. So we're going to put that back over there. And let's do one more modulation, which is also pretty classic. And this is the orange phaser. So this is the MXR little orange phaser with the one black knob that everybody bought probably 20 times. And then sold it and then bought it again, then sold it and then bought it again because they're cheap and why not, you know? That sounds good to me. Let's put it after the effects loop and let's figure out what it's going to sound like. So once again, it just kind of overpowers everything, which I'm not a fan of. Let's do one more. This is called the air filter, and it has a nice auto wall setting on it. Okay, not for the faint of heart, but let's put it in the effects loop, and now it's going to sound pretty strange. It's very weird. If you want the effect to stick out like that in the mix, it's perfectly fine. You can do whatever you want, but I do not prefer that sound. So and I know we have a expression pedal right here, which is great, but I do like having, I just like having the slow down the rate a little bit. Check the frequency here. Maybe have the mix down a little bit. Alrighty. So that is a lot of modulation effects. Let's go after the effects loop, and let's do some more modulation, but this time we're going to do like a vibrato. Like, to me, vibrato, tremolo, chorus, those need to live after, basically in the power amp section in the effects loop. So let's do stereo on this, even though I'm only taking the record out. I think it can be stereo, but I'm just have a mono cable coming out. So if we go, just a little strange. Let's put it on the clean channel. Something like this. Sounds good. Alright, so that's, some people put the rate super slow. So let's try that out. And Mick and Dan from that pedal show like to use vibrato in a dry wet configuration. So you get the dry sound having your core tonality, and then the vibrato on the wet sound is giving you a little bit of that movement, and when you combine them together, it just sounds really good. So, all right, let's do one more. There's actually two more. We're gonna do a chorus, something like this. So chorus, if you have the rate fast enough, it can kind of sound like a faux rotary speaker. We got one person watching right now. Let me know who you are. Not that it matters, but if you want to share this stream to your friends, that'd be great. And yeah, we're just kind of having fun talking about effects only rigs, and I might bring in another piece of gear here in a second, so it might be cool. And put some overdrive. And last but not least, I like this one the best just because it's classic. And this is the tremolo sound. So we have a very hard. We'll bring the depth down a little bit. Now let's turn the sync off. Let's just put it in the like 4K range. Make sure nothing else is on. There we go. I had the flanger on that whole time. So here's the chorus again. And I had the tremolo on. Here's the chorus by itself. Here's the vibrato by itself. The vibrato can tend to be a little seasick sounding. But here's the tremolo. All right. Let's move some of this stuff down. Now, here's a trick. We can have an amp block in here. So let's bring in. So let's say we want to use the. We can kind of go out of the way. Let's bring in a clean amp. Okay. So here's a. Why would that be a tangerine? There we go. Channel 1. There we go. Now, what we've done, remember, when I bypass the effects loop in my modeler, that bypasses the preamp section on the actual amp, and I'm only going into the effects return, which means that's a great opportunity to bring in digital modelers or digital amp models. So you can kind of complement your, maybe any kind of sound that your amp is lacking. Because maybe you only have a one channel amp and you want to use the gain channel on that amp, which I'll go ahead and switch that over to the lead. And here's my clean right here. We got somebody in the house saying Sean White from Kentucky. So that's a nice Paul Reed Smith there you got in your picture. So this is the new Les Paul that will be making its way into many, many videos and demonstrations. And yes, it is gorgeous. So I am now using the amplifier on the headrush going into the effects return of the amp. Okay, that's well and good. But now if I bypass the amp head and turn on the effects loop, this is what we get. And turn off the effects loop, turn back on the amp. It's a little loud. A little loud there. Okay, it's pretty fun. Let's try a different amp. Let's go with a let's go with the no, I don't want a Tweed Princeton. I'll take a regular Princeton. How about a Princeton Reverb? This does have its own vibrato channel. We'll turn up the speed a little bit. Okay, so we got that versus so Jordan, I hope that answers your question, because that's essentially all you do. Check your cabling, make sure you have an effects loop block in the chain, and I really don't know how you could go wrong. Maybe your amp, maybe the EVH3 has a button on the back of the amp that you have to push or something. There's got to be something, because it's really that easy. I'm not doing anything special. I don't have this magical power over the headrush that makes it sound amazing. I think it just sounds good by itself. So it's really all you can do. All right, let me grab another device and make sure I can get the power supply for it, and then we'll move on to a new item we can kind of talk about. Okay. Talk amongst yourselves. Let me switch this back to the default scene. All right, we are going to turn this off. I don't need to save that. I can recreate it anytime I want. And MX5. It's a great little unit. But now we're going to have something like this. What is it? What is it? What is it? I don't know. I wonder. I'm not going to do this now, but I wonder if the MX5 power supply can power this other unit I'm about to hook up. probably do this. I can do it, folks. Alright, we on. Push the power button here. Alright, so it's going to take a second for that to turn on. Okay. I will now be going direct into the focuser. Ooh. Oh, hey. Yeah, one more look. I mean, just look at that curl. Look at it. There's very little that can compare to a very well-made Les Paul. Les Paul. There was actually there's a joke from one of the Gibson employees I worked with. I guess he was watching like a newscast of some sort. And let me find where my cable is. And the newscaster, it was a woman, which is neither here or there. A guy could have totally done this too, but she was like, and now for our next story, we're going to talk about Les Paul. She's trying to make it French or something. And so Les Paul was in the house. I have a light like right over there, so if I have the mic in a certain spot, it puts a shadow on my face, and I don't want a shadow on my face. Well, Sean, there are a lot of beautiful PRS guitars out there in the world. And who's to say I'm not going to go grab some kind of PRS, but I did find a really good deal on this one. Clicks the start. Oh, cool. Nathan Epoch Cam. Yeah, I am using Ecamm Live from now on for my live streams, so I can do cool stuff like this. You know, I can put stuff on the screen. I can also do stuff like this. Yay. And also stuff like this. Nice. But that's neither here or there. So, what we have now in front of me is we have a Quad Cortex. Now, so there's nothing in this chain right now, but see a cable overhead. Now, this does have a touch screen. I think it might be slightly smaller than the Headrush pedal board and the gig board. And the size of this is roughly about the same as... I don't know if I want to do that or not. Yeah, it should be fine. That should be fine. So we got a touch screen here, right? So very, very similar to the Headrush. We can just touch anywhere, add in an amp. Here's my guitar. I really like the Bogner stuff. I mean, really all the amps in here sound great. We can use our finger to scroll up and down. So we got Marshalls, we got California style amps, which is a Mesa Boogie style amp. A diesel. Some of the diesel stuff. So let's check that out. Let's go with the normal, with the clean sound. We'll bring in a cab, and we'll do some kind of 4x12. Let's go with the Bogner because we can, and here we go. Sure this is up. All right, let me know if the volume is okay. 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 Now that's pretty clean. It's a clean sound for sure. Now we can, if you double tap on something, it turns it off, which is fine. But this is very similar to the new Helix update where you can take your microphone and essentially move it around. So it's kind of neat. You can change the position of things. And you can also use these dials, which is neat, to change the position of your microphone. So we have a M160 and a Shure SM57 on here. That sounds pretty good to me. That's panning, level, distance, and position. So you can just use your finger if you want, or you can use the switches. They're also rotary encoders. All right, so let's check out the gain on here. Maybe some master volume. Aaron Short is in the house. You got to see this, Aaron. Let me get my, let me press S. Yes, right there. Look at that top. Look at that curl. It is gorgeous with a capital G. And I'm not talking about Gibson. I'm talking about gorgeous. So, there you go. Another angle. It just pops. It pops in the light. Every angle is a new experience. Or something like that. Yeah, Aaron was like, wow. Comment. And I'm showing off. Yeah. Well, I bet you it was cheaper than the Rain Song that you just got. I assume. I don't know. I think those Rain Song acoustic guitars are pretty expensive. But it is a nice centerpiece for the studio and the channel. All right. I'm done with the clean sound. So let's go find an effects loop block here. So here's effects loop, and we're going to use effects loop 1. And notice how it cut the sound out because we don't have the rest of the cables plugged in. But essentially, we can do the exact same thing. So we could have our amp and cab right here. We can bring in a reverb after the amplifier. Stuff like that. Now if I double tap and turn it off, we now have our... Now let me see here. Send and return, send and return. I don't really feel like doing any more 4-cable method stuff. So we can actually drag this to the corner like that, and it gets rid of it. I like all the reverbs on the Quad Cortex. It sounds really good. Obviously there's a shimmer, there's plates, caves, ambience. The Mind Hall has a little bit of modulation in there that I like. Aaron says he's glad I finally got a real guitar. Yeah, those Reverend guys just don't know what they're doing, man. Less than 2K. You're talking about this, or you're talking about your Rain Song? But yes, it was less than 2K for sure. And Elizabeth is back in the house tonight. She had a good trip to Colorado for Thanksgiving. She was giving us the update last night on the stream, and now she's back for more. So Elizabeth, what do you think of this guitar? Let me go back here. Look at that. I will be purging some major gear here before Christmas or for the end of the year. I got pedals just laying around, not doing anything. Way too many guitars. So I think this is definitely a keeper right here. I mean, look at that. Look at that top. All right, I'm going to quit showing off. And let's go back to making some sound. So that does sound good. Let's go to Cave. Hall. Mind Hall, which has the modulated hall sound. Modulated. Here's the plate. Plate lush. Plate tight. And we got room. Shimmer. Spring mono. And then spring stereo. All right, let's go to our room sound and maybe turn up the decay. This is a little red, but it's actually a honey burst finish. When I was working at Gibson, I saw all kinds of finishes come through, and the Desert Burst was really nice. Obviously, the classic Sunburst is just, it's a nice burst. But there's really all kinds of bursts you can get. There's Iced Tea, which is more of a brownish kind of edge. This one's Honey Burst. There's just a lot of different bursts. Now, what's really neat is you can keep a clean sound on your amp, and the drive section has a lot of different options here. And one in particular is the Freeman BOD. Let's turn the gain down on that. We can bring up the tightness. All right, there we go. That sounds good. Elizabeth, I did not get anything on Cyber Monday per se. I did get some Kemper packs from a guy over in like Germany or somewhere. I kind of came across him on YouTube, and he had some great tones. So I ended up buying 2 of his packs for the Kemper, and yeah, Aaron is saying all you need is a Les Paul and a Mezza Boogie. Don't need those other toys. Even though he does, he is a big fan of the Kemper now. Which Aaron, if you know Aaron Short, he's not too keen on the modeling type stuff. He's more about the real amp and the amp in the room experience. It's perfectly fine. But I'm sure he's also just kidding around. Just slightly. He's asking if the guitar is mint. No, it is not mint. Since this is a 2012 traditional, it's definitely been played. I'm not sure if it had one original owner or if it's had multiple owners over the last 10 years. There's a few little dings here and there on the neck, on the headstock and the neck, and little scratch marks, stuff on the back of the body. But you're never going to see it. You're not really going to see all that stuff. It's very, very faint, and it looks really good. So I can't complain. The look of this guitar is just amazing. We got HOR421 show in the house. Looks like he's playing some kind of Les Paul there. And Teller Deluxe with Shaw pickups is my preference. Nice guitar. Teller Deluxe. I don't know what that is, but I have to check it out. And Aaron is asking what I'm selling. I have lots of pedals. I'm gonna take down the inventory of my guitars a little bit. I'm really looking for classic shapes. So I've wanted a Les Paul for a while. So you get a Les Paul. I just sold my Reverend Greg Koch Gristlemaster. It does have more of a modern look to it. But I'm keeping the Pete Anderson Telecaster for the classic Tele look. I haven't quite decided on if I'm keeping the Gil Paris model from Reverend or if I'm going to keep the HPP kind of bluish body color. The Reverend Sensei is a great guitar. It's very lightweight. It's definitely a good contrast to what the Les Paul weight is. I do like the look of the Sensei, so I might keep that one. But yeah, I need to thin the herd a little bit. So it is what it is. Oh, it's the Telecaster. Okay. Oh, I think I'm making too much noise. I'm actually going direct out of the Quad Cortex into the Focusrite interface here. But let's turn on the Freeman BLD again. Alright, so that's the sound of the pedal, which I think sounds good. Let's bring in another amplifier. Let's go here. Amp. We got the EVH3, which is what our friend Jordan was playing. Here's a Freeman lead. So this is a situation where the amp sounds good, but also the pedal sounds good. So I could take this in a very simple direction and say, I'm just going to have, let me change this to like a classic Fender style. Let's do like a Fender thing here. And let's do a deluxe vibrato. There we go. All right, so I have a clean amp with a high gain pedal in front. And that sounds pretty good, right? Now let's turn on the actual Freeman 100 lead head. And minus the fact that it's slightly louder, I think it sounds pretty close. So all right, so let me know what you think of that. He wants a Les Paul and a J45. Aaron, I have RCF Roya 6s, these are a $400 pair of studio monitors. Not very expensive at all, but for what I do, they sound great. Yeah, Freeman is a beast. The Freeman is a beast for sure. There is an update for the Quad Cortex coming out very soon. A few weeks ago, they said it was going to be a few weeks, so it should be right around the corner anytime now. And what the issue is for me with the Quad Cortex is you have scenes, you have stomps, and then you have presets, and you have zero spillover between your presets, which, most units don't have that anyway, so it's not really a big deal. You do have spillover between your scenes, so if I had scene A be a clean amp with no delay, and then scene B be a clean amp with delay, I can switch back and forth, and the delay would keep spilling over. So, for example, let's bring in a delay here. And we'll do a ping pong. And let's turn up the feedback. Maybe. Something like that, right? Now, scene A. What we have to do is we have to long press on anything that we want to be controlled by a scene. So we could long press on the mix, and now we can control that parameter per scene. Okay. So scene A is actually going to be off. And then scene B, you notice how it automatically turned on, which is fine. So we'll keep that on there like that. So I'm going to save it. We'll call this Doc Effects something. So scene A has no delay. And then scene B does have delay. And notice when I switch back to scene A, the delays keep going. I'm not sure what that sounds like on the stream here. Aaron is asking about the IK Multimedia studio monitors that just recently came out. I don't have an opinion on those because I just hadn't heard them. But really, a lot of things I just go based on the price. I was looking at very expensive studio monitors, and I just felt like for what I do, I'm not a professional engineer by any means, nor am I bringing in tons and tons of money into the studio. So having, $2,000 studio monitors just didn't make a lot of sense, but $400 studio monitors, that works for me, right? So I guess it depends on how much the IK Multimedia speakers are, and that would justify the price, and getting them in general. So, so Sean says the headrest got us spoiled. He's referring to the spillover between rigs. So on the headrush, you have spillover between the rigs, the scenes, and bypass mode on individual effects. The Helix recently made it to where you can have spillover between presets, but you can't use both lanes. Like if you put a block down here, so you have one DSP chip using this block or this lane, then another DSP chip using this lane. Once you turn on spillover on the Helix, this second lane goes away. So you're basically left with one lane and not a lot of slots available to fill up. Now, in a recent Helix update, the 3.5 update, they did make the cab blocks use, I think, 70% less DSP or CPU, whatever you want to call it. So that does allow you to do more things, but you still can't have spillover on the Helix and have, two signal paths going on. It's just not possible. There's not enough juice under the hood. So that is the cool thing about the headrush. And that's why I'm still a fan. The Quad Cortex is really just an experiment for me because I'm learning right now about different units. So therefore I can make videos on them and, teach more about different stuff other than the headrush. But what's great about what I've been doing the last 4 years is I'm just teaching concepts. Really, it doesn't matter if you're dealing with physical amps and physical pedals, or if you're dealing with modeling units that has virtual amps and virtual pedals. It's all the same stuff. I can take a cable and plug it into a real amp and do the 4-cable method with an actual pedal board, or I can just do it with a modeler, and it's no different to me. So, in my mind, it doesn't really matter which one of these you have, whether that's a Fractal or a QC, or a Kemper, or a Headrush, or a Helix, or a Nuix thing, or a Boss GT1000, and they literally all do the exact same thing. It's just a matter of, your personal preference, how they sound to you, and the user interface, how easy it is to get around and edit things on the fly if you need to. I have a Fractal Q AX8 over here. It sounds great, but the user interface is just horrid. It's just really bad. And I really refuse to try and learn how to use the online editor because I just feel like personally in my heart and in my soul that if you can't edit things on the unit itself, then an editor, it's going to make it easier if you're at a desktop kind of situation, but you can't edit things on the fly when you're at a gig. If you have to hook up a computer to your device, or if you have to have an iPad or something at your little station where you're performing at. If you have to have anything external to the device to make it workable for you, I just don't think that's a good option. So thankfully, the QC does have a nice touch screen, and you can get around with it pretty fast. So now this does sound really good. Okay, there's plenty of other blocks in here. We have a fuzz. Okay, which is interesting, right? We have a lot of the Boss stuff. So this is a Boss beat, like a blues driver. This is a Boss DS1. The Chief MT is a metal zone. So okay, this is a OD1 Overdrive 1. This is a Super Drive 1. Those are all Boss options. This is the exotic. I feel like it's the BB preamp, I think. Exotic Z Boost. Z Boost. I can't remember what that is. I've already done the Freeman BOD. Here's a Fuzz Pi. All right, here's the green 808, which is a tube screamer. Let's try the, shoot, I just missed it. I messed it up. So let's turn on the BOD. Double tap versus single tap. Overdrive down, level up. Yes, that sounds good. So those sounds right there, you can get nice clean sound. You can kick in your overdrive, your tube screamer. And then you can kick in your BOD. And you should be able to make it through a set with just those effects, I believe. Let's find a few more here. We have a Myth Drive, which is your Klon Centaur. We have a Nobel, which is a Nobles OD1. Which I have. I have a Wampler Bell. I have a Wampler Moxie, which is a tube screamer. And I have the Rat's Bane, which is the rat pedal. And then I have the Wampler Tumnus, which is the Klon pedal here. See that? So, great pedals. They're awesome. But I really feel like, our digital offerings are plenty good for most situations. We have an OD 250, which is your DOD 250. And we have the Obsessive Drive, which is the full tone OCD, which is one of my favorite pedals, whether physical or in a Mahler. I just like the full tone OCD. Rage Booster, which is a range booster, treble boost. I think a Red Drive is a Keeley something. Rodent Drive, which is your rat pedal. So you can easily have a 4-cable method with a real amp, and you have plenty of drive options, from low gain to medium gain to high gain. The Vimural Ray, the Vam Ray, which I've never played in real life, but the digital option sounds pretty good. And that's all the drive options we have down there. So let's bring it back to maybe the Nobles. And we'll turn the drive down, Spectrum up. All right, now for stomps. This is where it gets a little confusing, because we don't have scribble strips here to see anything, and we can take our finger and slide up, and we can kind of see where things are assigned. It's just interesting because there's really not a great way to do this other than tapping on the block, going to the foot thing, and then unassigning it. Same for the cab. We want to unassign that. So now that frees up A and B. See, A, B, and C are not assigned to anything. There's the switch for the Nobles. We don't have a switch for the Friedman yet. Actually, that's on C. It's just not showing up that well. There's our reverb. There's our delay. So let's tap on the reverb, and let's unassign it from that switch. So that way we just have some stuff along the bottom here. So delay. I love the Helix because you can just touch two foot switches, and that would ask you, hey, do you want to swap these around? And I said, yes, I would. That's a really cool thing about the Helix. But in this case, we have to tap, we have to unassign, we have to go back, and now we can assign it there. So it's just a few extra steps you got to keep in mind. Like for this one, I'm going to take it off G, and then I want to assign it here. Let's take this one and unassign that. And then we'll take this one. See, this just takes way too long, I think. Let's put it there. Okay. Now we can long press and we can turn on noise reduction. So that way when we do turn on the BEOD, we don't get a lot of hiss in the background. So I think that's really good. I'm going to take out this amp here. And let's put in a tremolo. Because it's very similar to the head rush. I just like tremolo sound effects. Because I just think it sounds good. There's our rate. There's a fade in, which is kind of neat. Not quite sure how that works. We got smoothing. Okay, and this one we're going to assign to G right here. So now we got our overdrives, we have our tremolo, and we have our delay. Okay, we can tap the tempo when we do have it on global. So that means if I change a different preset, the delay will still be the same. Yeah, I saw when the Moxie came out, I was like, well, I'll give it a try, you know. And these four pedals right here, these Wampler pedals are great. They sound really good, but I just don't want an analog pedal board. I prefer an all-in-one digital unit that gives me amps and effects, and I can do everything I need from that. All right, let's go into our delay, and let's change it to something a little more simple. Let's do a digital delay. Actual dual delay is really cool. And now this should give us the option to do a dotted eighth on the left. And then we can and then we can do a quarter note on the right. We can tap it in. We can do something like this. Right, something like that. Where we bring up our feedback. Where we bring up our mix, see what's on. We got a low pass filter, so we can make it a little more digital sounding. Modulation. Something like that. Turn on some overdrive. Now it's really funny. The previous owner has this upside down to where the treble is actually up and the rhythm is down. And this is the treble pickup. This is the rhythm pickup. Paul Reed Smith calls this the treble pickup and the bass pickup. Whatever. I always thought of it like bridge and neck. But this is treble and rhythm as far as Gibson goes. So whatever. All right, I like that. Let's go with something a little more tame. Let's just go with the Obsessive Drive. This actually sounds pretty similar to the BEOD. It probably has a little more mid-range. Go to our reverb. We'll change this to a nice let's do a shimmer real fast. I got a great guitar, but I still can't play with the lick, so. Alright, so what's neat about that is, I mean, really, this is all the sounds I really need. I just need 2 different overdrives, a nice delay, some kind of reverb, shimmery thing for church stuff, and now I am missing, let's see what I can do here. I am missing a nice auto swell option. And we just don't have it yet in the Quad Cortex. Just don't have it. There's a delay, overdrive, speakers, there's some captures. Go back. Okay. Let's get out of this. There we go. And I didn't save any of that, so therefore we got rid of some of my stuff, which is fine. It's all good. It's all good. Let's actually go. Let's finish up. Let's choose Aaron's amp, which he wants a J45. So let's go and find some kind of Marshall thing. So TM45 patch. TM45 bright. Let's turn off the delay. Okay, not too bad. Change device. Let's go to patch, so that way we're jumping from the normal to the bright channel, or vice versa. Brit UBL, which is a Jubilee amp. lead clip. And I mean, all these sound good. Here's a JCM 800. And I love this Uber shawl. All right, cool. So, effects only, put an amp in there and cab. There's a lot of different options you can do for maulers, which is great. I have a few other. I'll go ahead and save that. I can't remember. I guess I just do this. Fox, Saldano. Elizabeth is leaving us, but she'll be back next week. So have a good day at work tomorrow, Liz, and we'll see you later, okay? I do like the slow 100 super lead overdrive 100 amps. And all the maulers, they sound really good. Here's a 6505. Maybe next week I'll pull up my recording software and just track a few guitars, so you can hear what those sound like. So we got the clean, and we got the Freeman clean amp, but we have the we have the overdrive pedal. And we have a green 808. So sounds good to me. Yeah, that kind of stuff sounds great. Here's a bass for recording bass. Lone Star. And a Plexi. I mean, it all sounds good and it's very easy to use. I'm still leaning toward the Kemper as like my alternative to the Headrush, because the Kemper just sounds good. But the Quad Cortex is great for a desktop recording option. But there's no way I would use this live because the foot switches are just way too close together. Some of the functionality is just not there. As far as like hybrid mode, being able to have like scenes across the top and stomps across the bottom or something like that. And I mean, all this sounds fine, but I don't even know what I'm playing anymore. All right, guys. I think it's good. A Quad Cortex. Well, it is cool. The Quad Cortex is cool. Is it amazing that it just blows everything else away? I mean, it does sound good. But for what I do, I've already shown that if you give me a clean amp with a low gain distortion and a high gain distortion or overdrive, some tremolo and some delay, it's pretty much all I need. I really don't need a lot of fancy stuff. So that's why I'm kind of leaning towards the Kemper as my alternate to the Headrush. And I think my phone just died. So the phone just died. So what that means is we get to look at the guitar again. Whoa. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, these Quad Cortexes, I mean, I did get a good deal from Sweetwater. But if I were just going out on a limb, if I return this and then sell off some pedals and kind of clean up the studio, I'll have a Headrush for a good option for recording. I'll have the Kemper, and I got this Boss Katana over here that does sound really good. And I have a Supro amp for my tube amp, because everybody just has to have a tube amp, right, of some sort. And I got plenty of tonal options for pretty much any situation I'm in, whether I'm playing live or I want to record multiple musicians here in the studio. It's pretty much it. So let me know what you guys think about all this stuff. And if you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe down below and click the bell. I will be going live every Tuesday for the foreseeable future so we can talk about gear, because it's Taco Tuesday and we like to talk about gear. We don't want to eat gear. We definitely want to talk about it, though. And so I could be demonstrating a Kemper thing or a Headrush thing or a Quad Cortex thing, or talk about a guitar that I recently got, or we can talk about all kinds of gear. We might go online and check out a pedal company and their website, or just whatever that is. So, Sean is saying Headrush for life, and I can't disagree with that. I mean, Headrush is great. And it is raining really hard outside. I can hear it hitting the roof right now. So, be sure you check the links down below. I have Sweetwater affiliate links. I have Amazon affiliate links. So if you're going to shop there anyways, click through my link. I get a small commission from whatever you buy. It's usually not very much, like a few dollars depending on what you buy. You really have to spend a lot of money for me to get like some decent kickback. But, every dollar here and there helps. And buy a Sonic DNA Doc IR impulse response pack, and go to my website and check out all my courses. I have Headrush courses. I have a course on music theory and how you can apply that to pretty much any instrument. And I have recording and a bunch of other stuff coming along the way. So definitely subscribe, click the bell so you stay up to date on all that stuff. And here in the new year, I'm about to be a little thinner as far as the gear goes. I need to get a little bit thinner physically myself, but I need to thin down the herd here in the studio and just have a few nice pieces I can use for recording where I can get good humbucker sounds, Telecaster, Stratocaster, all that stuff. So thanks guys for watching. I am Dr. McFarland, and I will see you in the next video. Keep rocking.